Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to join this important debate on Bill S-203, an act to amend the Criminal Code and other acts which would end the captivity of whales and dolphins. Both I and my constituents in Parkdale High Park have anticipated this piece of legislation for some time since it moved from the Senate into this House. And now that it has returned from the Fisheries and Oceans Committee without amendment, I'm pleased to stand and speak in favour of this bill. And it is important to highlight the important work that was done, I believe, by unanimous Fisheries and Oceans Committee to get it back expeditiously before this House now. And before I speak to the substantive elements of the bill, I want to also add my voice to the voice echoed by the Leader of the Green Party to thank the Senate sponsors for this bill, the now retired Senator Wilfred Moore, Senator Murray Sinclair, who carried the bill forward after Senator Moore's retirement, and the House of Commons sponsor, the Honourable Member for Sandwich Gulf Islands, who just commenced this debate today. All of these individuals have been tireless advocates for this legislation, and their activism and their advocacy has helped carry S-203 to this point that we are at now this afternoon. The bill itself, Madam Speaker, seeks to prohibit the taking of a cetacean into captivity and will amend the Criminal Code to create offences respecting cetaceans in captivity. It will also amend other acts to require a permit for the import of a cetacean into Canada and the export of one from Canada. At the outset, Madam Speaker, I want to begin by tracking our government's progress on the commitment to promote animal welfare rights in Canada and abroad. This is an important issue to me, it is an important issue to the constituents of my riding of Parkdale High Park, as I frequently hear from them about the work we must all do collectively to ensure the welfare of animals. Since 2015, we have made progress on this commitment. In my role as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice, one of the pieces of legislation that I've had the privilege of working on is Bill C-84, an act to amend the Criminal Code in relationship to bestiality and animal fighting. That bill will make important amendments to our criminal code to change the definition of bestiality and to expand the animal fighting provisions to capture more of this conduct and to assure that offenders are brought to justice. It is indeed a momentous week this week in this chamber, Madam Speaker, because it was only this week that Bill C-84 received third reading and was then sent to the Senate. And I, along with many others, look forward to its study and its eventual passage there. But in the same week that we've dealt with C-84 in this chamber, we are dealing now today with S-203. So an important week for animal rights in this country. Our government has also been active on ensuring proper and humane animal transport with the help of stakeholders such as farmers, industry groups, provinces and territories, and veterinarians. Federally, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, Madam Speaker, administers the enforcement of regulations related to animal transport, and plans are underway to modernize the regulations and humane transport provisions of the health of animals regulations. These have not been updated since the 1970s, Madam Speaker. The need is clear to reduce animal suffering during transportation. In 2017, we also announced an investment of $1.31 million to an entity known as the Canadian Animal Health Coalition, the CAHC, to help ensure the safe transportation of livestock, develop emergency management tools for the livestock industry, and improve animal care assessments. We've also been engaged with stakeholders on the topic of animal welfare during the slaughter process, Madam Speaker. The stakeholders in my riding of Parkdale High Park have spoken to me repeatedly about the need to ensure that animals are handled humanely at all points of their lives and that the high standards we expect for animal treatment are upheld. I absolutely agree with this sentiment and that this kind of protection must be a priority, which is why I serve currently as a member of the Liberal Animal Welfare Caucus. But let's get back to the bill before us, S-203. Scientists agree, Madam Speaker, that whales, dolphins, and other extraordinary marine mammals like them should not be kept in captivity or bred in captivity, and doing so amounts to cruelty. Additionally, it is well documented that the live capture of a cetacean and its transport to a foreign habitat harms the natural habitat that the cetaceans originate from. At a time when oceans are under increased threat from a number of sources, such as habitat destruction, coastal pollution, overfishing, and global warming, which all harm these cetaceans, we can scarcely afford to be keeping them in captivity. We must also think about the difficult living conditions for a cetacean that would live in a confined space such as an aquarium, Madam Speaker, without having any social contact and normal activities that most cetaceans in the wild would enjoy. Those that live in captivity suffer from a higher rate of physical health issues and a lower life expectancy. As well, we know that calves generally suffer from a much higher mortality rate and a lack of emotional connection to others of their species as a result of the limited space when they're in captivity. Therefore, where we may see whales, dolphins, and other cetaceans in an aquarium as a form of entertainment in bygone years, in many cases, we now realize that it actually amounts to animal cruelty. Thus, our government firmly agrees that the capture of cetaceans for the sole purpose of being kept in public display should be ended. Importantly, while the banning of whale captivity is not yet in law, the practice has been in place for some years now, which is a good sign. Bill C-68, which was mentioned early in today's debate in one of the questions by a member opposite, Bill C-68 was introduced by our government, and it's currently in the Senate, and it passed this House in June of last year. It includes amendments to end the captivity of whales unless for rehabilitation. That legislation is now, this legislation that is now before us is the next step, and the next important step, Madam Speaker, in ensuring the safety and security of these intelligent and complex creatures. Presently, as was mentioned by the leader of the Green Party, there are 2 aquaria in Canada that were holding cetaceans: the Vancouver Aquarium in BC and Marineland in Ontario. The Vancouver Aquarium, which is a not-for-profit institution, currently has a Pacific white-sided dolphin that was rescued from the wild and deemed unreleasable, as well as 5 belugas on loan to the aquaria in the United States. The Vancouver Park Board has not permitted the aquarium to hold cetaceans captured from the wild for display purposes since 1996, but it does work with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to respond to cetaceans in the wild requiring rescue and rehabilitation. Marineland holds the remaining balance of cetaceans, including 1 orca. The Ministry of Fisheries retains the authority to issue a license for the capture of live cetaceans. However, only 1 such license has actually been issued over the past decade, Madam Speaker, and that was for the rescue and rehabilitation of a stranded Pseudorca calf. No license has been issued for the purpose of displaying a cetacean publicly in over 20 years. As stated earlier, Madam Speaker, it has been the practice of successive Canadian governments that cetaceans not be captured or placed in captivity unless for rehabilitation. It is also important to note that the elements of Bill S-203 that relate to the protection of the rights of Indigenous persons, some of which feature whales and dolphins as a key component of their culture and traditions. These provisions were not actually initially part of the bill, and through a significant consultation process, Madam Speaker, that took place while S-203 was being studied in the Senate, the bill was sufficiently and appropriately altered. It is essential to consider and address the needs of Indigenous peoples, and this is something that I've heard frequently from the knowledgeable, engaged constituents of my riding of Parkdale High Park, but literally from people right around the country. What they've always echoed to me is that we in this place as legislators must apply an Indigenous lens to all of the legislation, government or otherwise, that comes before us. And I'm pleased to see that that is in fact exactly what was done in the Senate when they engaged in those consultations. This legislation complements our government's work, which I've outlined. We are committed to the recovery and protection of marine mammals. This commitment is evident through another investment which we have made, which is a $1.5 billion investment into what is a very historic oceans protections plan, which would help restore our marine ecosystems in partnership with our Indigenous partners. As well, there has been a 5-year, $167 million investment into what is called the Whales Initiative, which will take concrete steps to help endangered whales and reduce the impact of human-caused threats, as well as our latest announcement of $61 million for measures in support of the southern resident killer whale population off of the coast of British Columbia. This bill, S-203, is one aspect of the support that our government has given to marine animals and their habitat. S-203 is supported by very significant leaders in the field of marine science and welfare, including Humane Canada, Animal Justice, and even the former head trainer at Marineland itself, Mr. Phil Demers, who's expressed support for the measures in this bill. What I think we are seeing here, Madam Speaker, with S-203 is the proper and necessary evolution of rights protection for animals in this country. It is a bill whose time has come. It is a bill that I'm very proud to support on behalf of my constituents and as a member of the government. I urge all members to do the same. Merci beaucoup.